Can we start here? The Cincinnati Reds, timeless team, right? Wouldn't we all agree?
Yeah, they used to be I don't know if they still do it, but they're always the first game every year. Yes, they are the franchise, if you will, like old-time franchise.
So my dad's always been a Giants fan. But back in the day when the 70s were around and Pops was in his prime, if you will, the Big Red Machine was the hottest team on the planet.
Pop's still in his prime, by the way.
Well,
go on.
I mean, that's subjective. But, Big Red Machine, it meant something. Ken Griffey Sr. and, obviously Johnny Bench. And I mean, there's a murderer's row of guys. Joe Morgan locally. They were the team. Pete Rose. And I'm watching them now, and I'm looking at Elly de la Cruz, and I'm saying to myself, this guy was playing shortstop. Now they've moved him over to third base because they brought up a shortstop that they acquired in the trade with the Minnesota Twins. And Elly de la Cruz made about 4 different plays at third base that we were just like, oh, my God. I mean, he's such a spectacular watch. So as I'm sitting there and it gets to a rain delay, I flip over to the MLB Network before I put on Looper.
There you go.
And who do I watch? Shohei Ohtani.
He is unbelievable.
I mean, it's just, when I think of like must-watch players in sports, Elly is one of them right now. He's a guy that I stop what I'm doing and I'm watching just to see his at-bats, to see him in the field. And Shohei's at the top of the list.
I mean, he is literally the greatest baseball player I have ever seen. And I slowly but surely, that's not becoming a hot take anymore. What this guy is doing on a day in and day out and night in, night out basis, it's unbelievable. Joe, we've never seen anything like this at this level. It's not Babe Ruth back in the early 1920s striking out plumbers and mailmen, and he never did it at this level. Like he was not this guy. And for this power, with that speed, all of the combinations of it. And he's playing for the Angels, man.
I know.
We were starving for him to go to any other franchise. That's why we were so high on him in the Giants yesterday. That's what I was talking about. I was like, if you could just get this guy in your organization, and hey, he's playing a team that may be interested in him, in the New York Yankees. Someone else brought up a good point, and I saw it was like, if he gets traded to an NL team, could he still win the MVP in the National League? Is that possible? Could he have still that dominant of a second half?
That's a great question. I mean, it feels like it's going to be Ohtani in the American League and Acuna in the National League.
But if he was to be traded, that's an interesting conversation, right?
I don't even know.
Like, how does that work? Do you take over those AL stats and bring him to the NL? Is he still going to be that dude? I don't know. It's interesting, but you're right. I was in my bed last night after I put down Young Benjamin. I was just watching the highlight. And Shohei Ohtani doing this. I'm going to play the call here from Angels. Game-tying home run against that team. And it was a packed crowd because it's always against the Yankees. But it is something special watching this guy. And I wonder at 888-957-9570, are we watching one of the greatest stretches in the history of baseball, maybe in the history of American sports? Shohei Ohtani, what this guy's doing is unbelievable. Take it away, man.
There's a fly ball left center field. Did he get it up? He flips the bat. Bader's at the wall. It's gone. It's tied. Shohei Ohtani, his 35th home run, and it's 3-3.
Call there courtesy of Bally Sports West. And yeah, again, Shohei's leading everyone in WAR, 6.8. That's offensive, pitching, all that. He's number 1 in offensive, and he's top 20 in pitching. It's unbelievable. By the way, number 2 in pitching WAR, the guy who was on the mound yesterday for the Giants, Logan Webb.
Really?
3.6. Yeah, right.
I didn't know that.
Behind Garrett Cole, who's having a phenomenal year, obviously, with the Yankees.
I didn't know that. Shohei, what he's putting out right now, people that are baseball savants. I'm talking about front office people. I'm talking about people that have covered the game. Tim Kirkshin, Ken Rosenthal. These are guys that, they really don't have a dog in the fight. They're just observers of the sport, and I would call them ambassadors of the sport.
Historians.
These guys are all coming out and saying, this might be the greatest 3-year run any player's ever had. And I'm taking a step back, and I'm like, I don't know, man. And I know Bonds was performance enhancing, right? We all understand that. Doesn't take away from how special and amazing it was. You still got to be able to make contact.
Yes.
Got to have a great batter's eye. Because I look at 02, 03, 04. Look at Bonds' numbers. Yeah. But that was just as a hitter. Now, he struck fear into the opposing team, and they would walk him and all that. But I'm looking at what Ohtani's doing just these last couple of years. 2021, this is at the plate. We'll get to the pitching stuff. 46 and 100, okay? 46 and 100. Now, he batted .257, not the greatest. He slugged .592, and his OPS was .965. Then he backs that up last year and comes in second place in the American League to Aaron Judge in the MVP voting.
Which is a joke, by the way.
34, 95, a 273 average, .356 on base percentage, .519, .875. Well, then he backs it up this year, and he goes 34, which is tying the amount of home runs, 73 RBIs, a .301 batting average, .386, .665, a .1051 OPS.
He should have won MVP last year. I'm sorry. Like that was a joke. He should be having 3 straight MVP type of seasons. I understand the historical significance. Aaron Judge, Yankees, that record, all that sort of stuff.
But wait, Joey, there's more. Because he's also pitching.
Are you Billy Mays?
There's also more. He's got a 3.5 ERA. He's 7-5, 100 innings pitched. I mean, the guy's only given up 40 runs this year. He's unbelievable. Like, he's literally unbelievable. I think we say this about Patrick Mahomes, Steph Curry. There are certain players in sports. Like, what makes LeBron so incredible when I look at the body of work for LeBron's career? Offensively, amazing. One of the greatest passers I've ever seen. Can facilitate, can score. Although that's not his number one thing, scoring. He's still a top, whatever, scorer of all time.
He has the most points of all time. Yeah.
But okay, maybe he's not the guy that I say, get me a bucket, now.
No. But he can. Like, that's the thing. We knocked on LeBron throughout most of his career because he can drive to the rack anytime he wants.
Absolutely.
Obviously, he's getting older now, so it's not as easy. But most of his career, he can just go out and get a dunk, but people think he's afraid of the free throws.
So he's not Kobe, okay?
No, exactly.
He's not Michael Jordan in terms of, efficiency shooting.
But he's way better passer than those guys. So
he's like Magic Johnson level of passing with the body of Karl Malone moving, like one of these guys who's 6'5", 6'6".
Unicorn, you would say. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And it's not just that offense. Then I look at him defensively, LeBron James, and I'm like, could guard any position. In his prime, could guard 1 through 5.
Should have had a DPOY, I think, at one point there.
Could have had multiple DPOIs. Yeah. And I feel like because he's LeBron, we judge him on a different metric. And that's why he's one of the top handful of players in the history of the game, right? In the history of the game. I look at what Patrick Mahomes is doing as a quarterback, and it's spectacular. What we're seeing, what Tom Brady accomplished as a player is spectacular. They don't even play defense. This guy's pitching and hitting at some of the great... I don't know if this is the greatest baseball player. Like, you're saying this is the greatest baseball player you've ever seen.
I've ever seen. And then, listen, I have
a hard time putting anyone above Bonds.
I didn't see Willie Mays play. I didn't see Hank Aaron. I didn't see some of these guys, and obviously the Ty Cobbs or the Babe Ruths, if you will. But I know they didn't do what Shohei did. I know they're not doing it at this level. Like, this is a top 20 pitcher and a top 5 hitter in baseball.
So we all
That's
agree.
what the metrics are telling me.
So we're all in agreement here, right, Joe? Like, everybody agrees. Like, everybody in the league wants this guy, right?
Yes.
Okay, everyone wants it. So, no, who's arguing, we don't want Ohtani? Everyone wants Ohtani. Yeah. Here's the question that I've got for you. We all also agree 10-year deals suck for the most part. There's a rare one that might work out for a team.
I can't even think of one.
I mean, Max Scherzer was a couple $100 million player, and it worked out for the Nationals.
Yeah, for the most part. You're right. That's a good one.
Few and far between, though. We all agree.
I think of Pujols immediately. That one just failed.
Well, in the first 5 years were actually...
Yeah, he's solid.
That's what I'm saying. So we all agree, 10-year deals suck. But this guy's so unique. I guess the question is, how many years can he sustain this? How... Man. We are in uncharted waters. How would you even go about saying, in the Pujols deal, we all said, by about year 6 or 7... he's going to start to fade, right? We all agreed there, right? When you agree? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Bryce Harper, by year 6 or 7, maybe 8 or 9, it's going to start to fade.
You're seeing with Mike Trout now. You're seeing the wear and tear from what he's done. And obviously, it's like a degenerative back problem, I guess, with Mike Trout. But you're seeing it, yeah.
Ohtani. How many years are you expecting him to do this? Is this the bottom could fall out at any moment? Is this sustainable for 2 years? 5 years? We all agree it's not going to be 10.
It's not going to be at this level, but I'll say this with Shohei Ohtani at 888-957-9570. I'd love to get your thoughts on this on the Comcast Business Text line as well. Same number, 888-957-9570. I think he'll age fine. It'll just look a little different because he'll still DH. He's not going to play in the field to sustain that longevity. He'll need to just stay at the DH. But the pitching aspect will have to shift. He ain't going to be a top 5 rotation kind of a guy.
Even if you go a 6-7 man rotation?
Maybe he could be an opener type, but maybe he could be a closer. Like he has the
Now,
stuff.
that's an interesting.
See, he has the stuff, Joe, and maybe that's
he did that in the WBC.
He did that in the WBC against Mike Trout. Again, throwing 100 by him. It was one of the greatest
at-bats.
What
a great way to start the season.
It was so sick. So awesome. And Dave Fleming is going to be on with us at 8 o'clock. He was calling that for the international feed, and he was obviously doing the game last night with Hunter Pence doing a hell of a job. And they had a little funny back and forth with the ground screw worker getting sucked in. We're going to play that highlight a little later. Also, Bobby Evans, former GM of the San Francisco 49ers, of the San Francisco Giants, I should say, not the 49ers. Shout out John Lynch. Bobby Evans, 920. He courted Shohei Ohtani when he was first coming over here. I want to get his thoughts on what he could do differently. Maybe if they had the DH then back in the National League, they could have a shot at him. But it's interesting talking about Shohei Ohtani here. I think he could be a not Mariano Rivera type because that's the greatest of all time.
I mean, yeah.
But why not be like a top 10, top 20 type reliever in the league while also DHing? He could do that. He has the stuff. Throws 100 miles an hour, Joe, with a wicked slider.
Well, and who says that he has to be your closer for the majority of games? He could be like if you did a platoon of closing, for example, if the Giants, Doval and Ohtani.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Now you're talking about 80, I mean, not 80, but let's say 55 to 70 appearances each guy.
I'm thinking of like the Royals when they had that run, the dominant, like the Wade Davises,
Good
what is it,
call.
Greg Holland, like those guys. Ventura was another guy. Like that was, got to the sixth inning, you were done.
You were finished.
You're done. Like that's how it could be later on in his career. And think about what that does for him. Like who do we talk about when it comes to great relievers and great starters? It's who? Dennis Eckersley.
Yes.
And who? John Smoltz.
Yes. The only guys with 150 wins and 150 saves.
And I'm not saying Shohei's going to get to that level, but he could be talked about with those guys on top of being one of the greatest hitters of all time. Are you kidding me?
It's pretty impressive.
And we're talking about this like it's like not even unfeasible. Well, he could do this.
The DH thing's interesting because I've thought about this long and hard. Like look at Jock Peterson's body right now. Now, again, I'm body shaming, so I apologize, Jock, on the front.
He's a thick boy. It's all right. Shout out the thick boys out there.
Jock could DH for how many more years?
How old is he right now?
I don't know. He's probably close to 31, 32.
Yeah, 31.
31.
He could DH for the next 10 years if he wanted to.
Conceivably.
Yes.
Right? Depending on
how great of a hitter. Like the greatest of the greats play, like the Nelson Cruzes or who's like 45, and now he's finally getting phased out.
And Jock, your local guy, we love you. You're not the picturesque, photo in my mind when it comes to health.
No.
Or training.
No.
Okay. Now, anyone can get hurt at any time. But I look at Edgar Martinez. I look at David Ortiz. I look at even Miguel Cabrera, who is also not a guy that I look at when I think of fitness or elite training regimen. These guys have been quality DHs until they're 40.
Yep.
Every one of those guys. So forget the pitching for a second. I think the hitting is legitimately sustainable moving forward. Now, will he be this level of efficient? That's unlikely because the bat slows down. You're watching Joey Votto. He's 40 years old, and he's kept his body in pretty good shape.
And he's one of the greatest hitters of his generation. He has almost a 300 career average. We were just talking about before the show if he's a Hall of Famer or not. I think I'd probably put him in because his longevity at the Reds, 350 home runs, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, you're right. Even him, you're seeing it deteriorate.
Right, but he's been pretty good for pretty long. So let's say the hitting is close to elite for what, 4 or 5 more years? Is that being too aggressive?
No. I would say that's probably right on track. He's 30 years old or 29, just turned 29 July 5th. So yeah.
Okay. And let's say he's either a starter or a reliever for the next, what do you think, 3 to 5?
I think he's a starter for at least 3 to 5 years. And then after that, he can go into a relief role. Yes.
I mean,
that's not crazy.
Joe, you're looking at one of the greatest careers ever.
Yes.
In any sport.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. Like, this guy's having the greatest stretch of all. He should have had 3 straight MVPs, and that's already solidified. If you win 3 straight MVPs, he's already in the Hall of Fame. Like, I'm saying that, and as hard as baseball, right?
No, I mean,
who's in there? Who's in the Hall or who's not in the Hall that's won 3 straight MVPs outside the steroid stuff?
If we're going to put in Sandy Koufax for basically a 6-year run,
yes.
And if he could do this for another couple of years, I mean, these 3 years alone, name me another guy in another sport who's had 3 years like Ohtani.
888-957-9570. That is the number.
Brett Favre won how many in a row? An MVP, I think 3, 2 or 3 in a row.
I think it was 2. I don't know if he won 3 in a row.
Okay,
yeah.
Like, and I'm asking out loud. Like Barry Bonds in the early 00s, incredible. There's no denying he's at the top of the list. Pedro, Lincecum, I'll take Lincecum.
Larry Bird won 3 straight. I think did Kareem do it as well? Yes. I believe. Jokic probably should have won 3 straight.
Jokic is a great one.
Jokic is a great comp.
Jokic has been as dominant, and in the year he doesn't win the MVP, he wins the title.
Yes.
And he could have easily won the MVP.
Wins the finals MVP.
It's a
That's
great point.
nice consolation. It's from the 925 on the Comcast Business text line. Actually, Eddie in Brentwood, appreciate you chiming in here, Eddie. What does it say about the Los Angeles Angels that they have signed 2 of the greatest players ever to play the game and haven't won anything since?
He hasn't played in a playoff game.
I know.
So
the WBC was the closest thing we got for both Trout and Ohtani in a playoff scenario. How sad is that? I know Trout's played. He got swept against the Royals back in 2014, but it's sad.
That's one of the selling points. If I was a team, it could be any team, but if I was a team like the Giants, part of my selling point would be like, hey, even though you're going to wait to go to free agency, you're not going to just re-sign with us. You're going to test free agency. Don't you want a little taste of the playoffs?
Yes.
Don't you want a little taste?
Why, if you're the Giants, it's right there, man. It's right there.
I know.
Oh man,
we're getting calls from Gretzky. Good call on that.
And I didn't really watch Wayne Gretzky, so maybe you can speak. Yeah, more.
Ovechkin, I know had a good 4-year run.
Sidney Crosby. Yes. If we're going to the cross-sport analogy there, and again, we'll talk to Bobby Evans, who was in the pitch for Shohei back in 2018 before he started with the Angels. Giants were in on that, but again, they didn't have the universal DH back then. There was whispers about it, like it's probably going to come, but Shohei's like, I'm not going to put all my eggs in that basket.
If you were going to put Steph Curry's runs up there, I don't even know if he gets the 3 full years because the Durant one kind of diluted, not for us, but I think for a lot of people, it diluted kind of his excellence because he won the MVP, then he was the unanimous MVP, and then Durant shows up.
Listen,
even though he was amazing and efficient and all those things, it feels like the general perception of those seasons isn't thought as highly.
And all due respect to Stephen Curry, greatest, if not the greatest offensive player of all time, defense, not very great. We're talking about
that's a good
pitcher and a hitter. 2 positions at once. That's rarefied. No one doesn't compare to anyone, Joe. I'm going nuts right now, but it's true.
It feels like 1950s football where a guy plays both ways. You know what I mean?
Jim Thorpe-esque.
Yes.
That's the guy we could compare him to, like a Jim Thorpe type.
Absolutely.
Those are the guys we're comparing him to. Anyone else, it doesn't even come close. Like, you have to start going to Bo Jackson doing it in football and in baseball. But again, that's 2 different sports.